There is a very significant birthday afoot. The BBFC, the British Board of Film Classification, is 100 years old, which seems extraordinary. And there's a number of events going on to mark this fairly momentous occasion. At the BFI South Bank in London, there's a season of films, which I've been involved in programming, looking back over a century of cinema, looking at the different ways in which the BBFC have responded to the challenges of cinema, looking at the changing face of censorship over the course of the past 100 years. And then there's a book coming out which takes an insider look at the BBFC, looking through their files, giving a real inside view of the work that they've done. Now, from my point of view, this anniversary is very important because when I first started writing about films 25 years ago, the BBFC were a very different body. Of course, originally they were the British Board of Film Censorship as opposed to classification. And when I first started writing, I was very critical of them. I complained about the way in which they treated horror cinema, saying they didn't understand horror cinema. They cut out all the best bits. What we really needed was an end to censorship. Then, of course, they became the British Board of Film Classification. And around about 2000, there was a sea change at the BBFC. They started to think that actually their main function was classification rather than censorship. And really what they ought to do is to cut movies for younger audiences, but as far as older audiences are concerned, within the bounds of the law, to allow those audiences to decide for themselves what they should and shouldn't watch. Now, the really fascinating thing is that having gone from being this fairly draconian institution that really was a problem if you were a horror fan, the BBFC, in my mind, have now become the most open and accountable classification body in the world. You may not always agree with their decisions, and they may still do things that you don't like, but the key difference is that nowadays they publish their decisions online at bbfc.co.uk. You can look up any movie, you can find out what they did, why they did, when they did it. You can ask questions about those decisions. They have become very open, and to me, that is extremely important. Nowadays, I actually see the BBFC's role as mainly protecting cinema rather than cutting, damaging and controlling it. And of course, in the 21st century, the role of classification has changed. What role do classifiers have in a world in which most people have access to their entertainment through the internet? For me, the BBFC have gone from being a body who were essentially the enemy to being a body who are now on the side of all that is good and just. What about you? What do you think? Do you think the BBFC are still part of the problem, or are they now, at the grand old age of 100, part of the solution? Let me know.